All right, so here we are, everybody. Oops, sorry. These are the Algebra 1 notes. This is for Unit 8.4. And I believe this will be the only set of notes for this chapter right here. So this is going to be factored by grouping. And so basically, we're starting to now get into some kind of larger scale grouping in which we have, like, say, a polynomial with four terms. All right, this is actually going to be a pretty common grouping method that we're going to be using over the next, not only for this section, but also for the next two sections as well. Alrighty, so basically factor by grouping once again. So you want to use, so as you say up here, you want to use this method. It's when you have four terms. All right, so like if you say like in this example right here, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms right there. Okay, so what you're wanting to do for this, all right, so and you basically follow the steps here. You're going to group them by pairs. What does that mean? It basically means I'm going to put a set of parentheses in front of the first two, so this one and this one, and a set of parentheses in front of these two. And I also put it in front of whatever sign's in front of this third one here. So I like this third one, whatever sign's here. So if it's a plus sign, I put a parenthesis in front of that. If it's a minus sign, I'll put a parenthesis in front of that. Okay, so factor out a GCF of each group. So I'm going to look in this group right here. Only this group, only the x cubed and the 3x squared. I'm going to see, well, what's the GCF I can take out of that? There's not a number that divides 1 and 3. Well, there is. It's 1, but I don't really care about that number. And I can take 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I can take two x's out of them, so I can take out x squared. And if we go inside, if I take two x's away from 3 x's, I'm left with 1. 2 x's away from 2 x's, well, that's nothing, so I'm just left with that x plus 3. Okay? Now I'm going to repeat that process for this 4x plus 12 over here. Now if I look for 12, number that divides both those, biggest number that divides both those is 4. So I can take a 4 out of plus 4. Positive 4, that is. Make sure you're very specific about that. If I take a 4 divided by 4 is 1, and I'm still left with that x there. 12 divided by 4 is 3, so it's going to just be x plus 3. All right, now once we get to this part, this is where this big thing right here comes into play. Your goal and what you want to see, and if you don't see this, you can't continue. You cannot continue on to step 3. You have to make sure that this is satisfied in order before you go from this step to this step. You have to make sure that you get the same thing left in these parentheses right here. And if you see, you had x plus 3, x plus 3. Hey, I got the same thing in the parentheses, all right? So now, once I do that, once I see that I got both these things inside the parentheses here the same, what I can do from there is I can basically set up two sets of parentheses right here. I'm going to put 1 of the x plus 3 in here, so I'm going to do x plus 3 in here right here. And then I'm going to combine the outside terms, so the x squared and the plus 4 into its own little thing. And that's it right there. That's factor by grouping, okay? Alrighty. Now moving on to these ones here. All right, example 2, example 3. So let's just go ahead and start them up. Factor by grouping, I'm going to start by putting a set of parentheses around them there. All right, first two and then the last two. Look at this first two. What's a GCF I can take out of these first two right here? I got 4x cubed, 8x squared. Well, let's see, 4 and 8. Number that divides both those is 4. And I can also take out 2 x's. 4 divided by 4 is 1. If I take 2 x's away from 3, I'm left with 1x. Negative 8 divided by 4 is minus 2. To take out 2 x's, I'm going to be left with no x's. All right. And then for this, so that's for the first one. Now for this one here, 3 and 6, I can take out a positive 3. So I'm going to write a plus 3 there. And what I'm left with inside, 3 divided by 3 is 1. Still left with that x. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. So it's going to live left with the negative 2. Again, I'm looking to see if I have the same thing in my parentheses here. I do, so I can now go on to my next step. I write, not do that. I'm going to do myself 4x squared plus 3. I'm going to combine these two into one parenthesis. And then I'm going to take one of my x minus 2's, and I'm going to combine them into there as well, okay? All right, example 3, moving on to this one here. Set up your parentheses. First thing you're automatically doing if you're going to see 4 terms. In fact, set up the parentheses. All right. 40 and 15. Let's see a number that I can divide both those by. Well, the largest number I see is 5. And I can also take out 2 x's. So what I can do is I'm going to take out 5x squared, 5 and 2 x's. 40 divided by 5 is 8. Take 2 x's away from 3. I'm just left with 1x. And then 15 divided by 5 is going to be 3, and I take 2 x's away from 2, I'm just left with no x's, so I'm just left with a plus 15 divided by 5, which is 3, okay? Alrighty, so now we move on to this one here. Now, if we look at 8x plus 3, you notice that, well, there's not really a number other than 1, and again, I don't care about the number 1 here. There's not a number that divides 8 and 3. And I can't really take any x's out of both of these terms. So one might say, well, I don't take anything out of there then. I just leave it. We still have to take out what I call a placeholder. Right? We technically have to take something out. But since I really can't take anything out, the only number I can take out is come on. Sorry about the thing there. The thing I take out is a plus 1, okay? And that doesn't really change anything, so I'm just left with 8x plus 3, okay? So if you get to the point where you can't really take, can't take a GCF out, you still have to take out and I do this always in air quotes, a positive 1, all right? Because again, it just doesn't change anything, all right? That positive 1 basically acts like a placeholder. And so basically from there, once we get there, again, we see that we have the same thing inside of parentheses. So from down here, we can write out, I'm going to combine the 5x squared and the plus 1 in one parenthesis. And then in the other, I'm going to write down one of my 8x plus 3's, all right? And that's it right there, all right. All right, moving on to these ones right here. Example number 4. All righty, so start with my same thing here. I'm going to set my 2 parentheses. Round the first, round the set, round the first 2, round the last 2. I take out, with this one right here, there's no numbers to take out because it's 1 and 2, but I can take out an x squared. And I'm left with x plus 2 inside. Now for these right here, now this is where I'm getting, now this is getting kind of interesting. Now this is another kind of big kind of point right here. You see this negative right here, all right? This negative for the first term in this parenthesis. So you see this parenthesis right here. First term is negative, all right? That tells me that automatically I'm going to take out a negative number, all right? Doesn't matter what that number is, I'm going to automatically take out a negative. That would be the same if I had a negative out here. But for the most part, you're going to see the negative right here, okay? In the first, it's going to be the first term in the second set of parentheses, kind of the right one here, okay? So it's automatically going to be a negative number. Now if I look, 16 and 32, well, I can divide those by 16, so I'm left with, take a 16 out, negative, now you're taking a negative 16 out of a negative 16. Negative divided by negative is going to be a positive number. 16 divided by 16 is 1, so it's going to be positive 1, and all I'm left with is that x there. Negative 32 divided by negative 16, that's just a positive 2, okay? That's a positive 2. Make sure you're keeping track of your negatives here. If you look here, I got the same thing inside my parentheses, so I am good to go there. So I'm going to bring down all my stuff here. X squared minus 16, that's in one parenthesis. And in the other parenthesis, I'm going to write out x plus 2. I'm going to write one of those down there, okay? Alrighty, so now on the last one here, alright? So here we have, put 2 parentheses around, 64x cubed, 24x squared. So I'm dealing with some larger numbers here. And let's just think. I think out of this first one here, I can divide out 8x squared. 64 divided by 8 is going to be 8. Take 2 x's away from 3 x's, I'm left with x. 24 divided by 8 is going to be 3, so it's going to be plus 3. 2 x's away from 2 x's is 0, so I don't have to write any more x's out. Negative 112 minus 42. I got a negative, so my first number that I'm taking out is automatically going to be a negative number, okay? Now, if we take a look, well, let me see around here. So, these are two fairly big numbers. So again, if you're looking for GCF, between two numbers here, 112 and 42, and you're like, well, it's kind of tough to see what's the largest number that divides these two. Set up a little table, all right, 42. Figure out numbers that multiply to 42. You got yourself 1, 42, 2, 21. You got yourself, 3, 14, 4, no, 5, no, 6, and 7, and that's basically it. And then from there, you start with the largest one, the 14, and you just kind of work your way down. See which is the largest one that works. Let's see, 112 divided by 42. That's not going to work. 112 divided by 21. That one also doesn't work. 112 divided by 14. Hey, you look at that one. That one works right there. Okay. So you're going to take out a negative 14. All right. Negative 112 divided by negative 14. Well, you see that is going to get you a positive 8. Still left with that x there. And then 14, negative 14 divided by negative 42. Well, you see right here, that's kind of the number there. You got the 3. All right, so you're going to be negative 42 divided by negative 14 is going to be plus 3. Okay? All righty. Now you see you got these here, these here. I'm going to, same thing in my parentheses. I'm going to combine these right out here. 8x squared minus 14. And then in parentheses, I got myself 8x plus 3. All right, and that's that right there. All righty, so there's my factor by grouping notes right there, y'all. Hope you guys enjoy these and have yourselves a good day. We'll see you.